Good morning and welcome back to the Opportunistic Trader for December 10th. I hope all had a nice, relaxing weekend, good football weekend, crazy finishes. Our Dolphins probably pulled out one of the craziest wins, beat the Patriots, so we're in a happy mood down here in South Florida. A little cold this morning, but
Oh, here we go.
65 isn't so bad. But anyway, getting to the markets, I guess the news over the weekend was, Trump letting go Kelly. Yes, that was probably in the cards at some point. I haven't spoken in like a month, whatever. Um, News out of China. We were speaking a little bit before we came on the air, Vince and I, and their numbers are slowing more than expected, but I guess that is expected. So it wasn't much of a move out of China last night, slightly lower. Our markets were significantly lower overnight. The S&P took out the lows of last week and traded down to 10, which is almost the low of the last move, which I think was around 03 or 05. But we're nowhere near that. The market has actually turned positive. It actually is up about 7 or 8. The Dow will be up between 50 and 100 on the opening if we stay here, because the premium was put into the futures with a late buy program on the close on Friday. But looking across the board, there's not a lot. I guess the Brit exit thing, they're postponing or delaying the vote. That's down a figure at 126, which is a little bit outside the range that we talked about for 2.5 years of 128 to 132, 133. So it is lower, but I guess it's
Signs
just
of Armageddon for range traders.
yeah, it's out of control. This thing used to move 10 figures a day. Now it
It's
doesn't
out
move
of
10
control.
figures a year.
Exactly.
So, I mean, unless you come up with some fake news in an EEM currency, the real big, 8 or 10 currencies don't move. So, and they haven't moved in years, the euro included, as well as the yen. So, tough out there for in currency land. Come to S&Ps where we have a little bit of fun every day. The
Well,
S&P
market
is
is unchanged on the year, but moves 2% a day.
right. The S&P
That
has already moved 35 handles on we've moved 1.25% on an index that's not even down 1.25%. So
yeah.
the algos are in full effect. Wanted to talk a little bit about volatility. It's elevated, and we're still seeing that discount between the cash and the futures here. The cash is at 23.12 on a major downtick from 24 this morning earlier, and the futures are 21.30. So again, every time we get above 20, these things are discounted, and when we get to 27, they're discounted like 30%. And then when we get down to like 15, 16, they traded a premium. So I guess that's part of the rigging of volatility here. Bonds are slightly lower. They were a little bit higher. Oil's the outlier, down 2%, down about $1, and it's heading back down towards the low below $50. They've thrown everything at this thing to try to get it up, as far as cuts and OPEC meetings, all of that. And other than that, there's not a lot really moving. Apple down about $1. Apple looks terrible. I actually was going to put it in the chat earlier, but I'd be interested to know what Warren Buffett's price average is on Apple. And I would have to venture to say his first buys were done under $100, but I'll bet you another 5 or 10 points and he'll be down money on the trade, which is probably the most amazing thing about it. They bought it as a growth stock outside the realm of what they usually do. The stock exploded. They were up over 100% on the trade. They kept buying and buying and buying. Now it's trading at 167, and it hasn't basically been here all year. So any buy that anyone made in Apple this year, other than a slight dip in March, they're down money on the year, on the trade. So his position on anything that he bought this year is down pretty good. And I know he was buying in the second
M-
and the third quarter, and the stock was between 200 and 235.
He could have bought puts from Goldman. Maybe that's why Goldman is down. Hey, Larry, we have a question from John Hassinger. If I'm saying his name right. He was interested in what levels you're looking at in the VIX and S&P.
Well,
Just indicative, obviously.
yeah, I would say the lows of today would be a level, overnight lows, and on the upside, anything around unchanged on the year. So wide range. I don't see much doing here. I think the market's trading short levels right now, but I've started the month really badly, as I did last month. The same thing. Last month, I think I was 0 for 6 or 0 for 7. I think I'm 0 for 3 and feeling really bad. And I don't have a good feel here, so I want to really make the next trade count. Patient. So I don't see a trade in here, but I do think up about 10 from here would be a good level for a trading short, and maybe down on the lows, which is scary, is a buy. But overall, we're nowhere near that. We're closer to the high. So right now I see a no trade. As far as volatility goes, I'm still trying to figure out that inversion between cash and futures. I think volatility is actually elevated, which leads me to believe we are probably going to trade a bit lower, considering seasonality is in effect here. And we've been talking about it for probably 10 to 15 trading days, saying, oh, there's only 25 days left, there's only 30 days left. Well, now we're at the point where there's really only 15 trading days left in the whole year. So they're going to try to save it with everything they can. And we're hoping we have an up year. It doesn't look like it at this point. It looked pretty bad this morning. But overall, I don't see anything moving. I'm looking at my board. Apple looks the weakest on the board. It's down $1. Looks like it wants to go lower, but Facebook's up 2. Netflix is down slightly.
It does seem that Apple is no longer a leader going lower. You know what I mean? It's on its own now.
Yeah.
It's not a FANG anymore, so to speak.
Well,
You
but
know what I mean?
listen, it's like the Dow. As soon as that thing performs badly, they'll just take it out and they'll go. You know how they had the FANG with 2 A's? Now they're going to have the FANG with 1 A, and then
Right.
And
then
then
it'll
if
just be
Alphabet doesn't do good, they might change the name again. But who knows?
God forbid if they take Netflix out, we have a problem.
But the Apple trade is very, very interesting, and I was looking, and I know it's not the highest cap stock. I think Microsoft is, but I actually think this morning that Amazon has passed Apple as well. I need someone to do a fact check on that basis pre-open, but I do think that Apple isn't even the top 2. It's number 3, heading lower. So who knows where it's going to end up? And again, it's tight on that, so it still may be a number 2, but I think Apple's like 789 and Amazon might be 793, but I could be wrong. I just have to look after I get off the air, unless somebody's checking it out. But overall, it's close to number 3 and doesn't look good. Doesn't look healthy, and I think really they run into a problem because they stopped giving guidance, and they stopped giving forward-looking stuff and backward-looking stuff, and there's really no way to value it because they're not really gonna give you a way to value it, and I think that scares a lot of people and takes a lot of people out of the game from having the ability.
Maybe I'm paranoid, but they're not an ignorant company. I mean, they should have known the stock would be punished doing that.
They don't care.
Well, I think that was step 1, and step 2 more recently has been a lot of concern. Apple's really right in the crosshairs of this China trade, especially with the Huawei, what's going on, how they might retaliate because, look, hey, we just took their CFO of their Apple equivalent, and they're, like you mentioned last week, Larry, they have a lot of ways of firing back directly at Apple. Let's say they were to completely ban Apple. Then what? And, the producers...
I don't know how much, to be honest.
I own the URL pearphone.com.
I don't think Apple does that great there anyway. I don't even think they're in the top.
No, Google does better, but it still affects them because they manufacture the components.
Manufacturing, exactly.
That's
The
how it
manufacturing,
is.
right.
Maybe the demand's not there, but
Well,
That's
what do you
what
mean? They don't even
manufacturing.
need China to do that. Trump's going to do it. He was threatening a 5 or 10% tariff on them for making their parts there. We're only going to be able to get stuff in the USA. It's very interesting. You
free
know,
Ford Pinto with every iPhone. Welcome to the 1970s.
I believe me.
Tariffs are a tax. Taxes are inflation, even with a strong dollar. But that's just my opinion.
I just think it's funny. I remember being very young. I might have been like 5 or 7, and like if you got a toy that like was made in China, it was like it didn't even make it through the afternoon of between me and my brother going crazy. It would break. And then there, you'd be like, who would ever buy anything in the United States? Garbage. But it's funny how things have changed. But just looking at Apple and watching it trade versus the S&P, it looks terrible. I mean, just horrible. So it's going to be interesting. Buffett makes these statements. He's like, "Oh, we want the stock to go lower." Okay, so what does that mean? It just went 28% lower. Is that really what he wanted?
It's really, I hear you. It's really in the realm of possibility that when Buffett doesn't speak, and as a student of Buffett behaviorally, when Buffett doesn't speak and he has relationship with big banks, I mean, I watched him corner the market in silver, and I watched how he did it. He doesn't say anything until after. He's not like a cheerleader until after. I would not be surprised if he has. Remember the time in the 07, 08 crisis when he basically sold the S&P put strip after bailing out Goldman? I would not be surprised if he.
Oh, he always listen to. In all fairness, he always does that. He's massively short. It's funny. He complains about derivatives and people using them, and then he's the biggest culprit. He's naked. He's naked short so many puts that it's unbelievable. He loves that.
The wisdom of Warren Buffett is options are, and I'm almost quoting here, and it makes sense. But then when you watch what he does, it's not what he does. Trading options is not smart for professionals because you can do the same thing with leverage. Why would you give a market maker VIG? And then he sells a strip of puts to Goldman a couple years ago, and the market goes up. I would not be surprised when this is over. I mean, it's just conjecture. If you find out that he had bought puts on Apple, you don't think Apple talked to him before they made those announcements, whether they were right or wrong to do them? I think he bought a strip of puts, just speculatively speaking, through a bank that probably owes him, like Goldman. And I think we'll find that out. He doesn't, he's Teflon.
You really think? I think he's long. I think he's long, and he's not selling. And the funny thing, though, is if you really think about it, he bought the largest cap stock. This is not like innovative. This is not like him finding like a deal in GE or whatever.
He stays away from that stuff. Right.
He's buying the largest cap stock. There's nothing to it other than basically they sell phones and whatever else they're doing.
Right. It's
not innovative, and he made 100% plus on his money in less than 2 years. Why would he be buying more and more and more and more? I mean, it's not going to end. It's not going to end well. And Apple, potentially could go back down, a lot. And a lot of people are long this. This is the darling hidden name that everybody is in. Everybody is long this name. That's all I'll say.
Including my friends at the Swiss National Bank.
Everybody is long this thing. I'm talking about guys on leverage at Fidelity and Schwab. They're all long it. So, this is a really big down move for Apple. You got $70 down off the high. That's something very unexpected. So, it's going to be interesting to see if it could bounce. It's probably a level in here somewhere to get long it. But I want to state that the year low is like at 155. So it's got a ways to go to get there. And that's it. The market has come in a little bit since we've been speaking. I do expect it to come in a bit more. Interesting, NASDAQ had a 100-point rally off the low last night, but it hasn't moved 100 points on the year. So this is what we're dealing with. You're dealing with massive program trading, and the algos are out. And you pointed out, it's very funny. Like Leon Cooperman goes on CNBC and he complains about the algorithm. How come he wasn't complaining for the last 8 years? The only reason why we got up so much is because of the algo. You know,
it's the evil algos, not the good algos.
Right, the down algo. Take the down algo out.
Right, exactly.
So
it's funny because he actually was a good stock picker for years. I used to watch a lot of the NLPs he bought in energy. I have a question for you about the ES or the S&P. You were talking about lows for the session and unchanged. If the market made new lows, would you be, if the market made lows, and I know you don't know until it actually happens, but would you be more inclined, given what you know right now at this moment, which can obviously change? You have to be in the chat room to know that. But if we made new lows, would you be more inclined to buy new lows or buy it if it goes back through the old lows higher? Like buying strength off the bottom, or
I don't think we're going to get there either way today, but
right.
But
so then, how about on the
wouldn't-
upside, the reverse side of that?
I don't know. You know, it's funny. We were down there last night, and I was thinking about buying it. I didn't, but it gets skittish. You know, it's a skittish market. I'm not really looking in this. This is a no man's land level,
right?
So,
and the VIX remains strong. So,
yeah, the VIX is elevated for sure relative to the seasonality. So
there's a lot of funds owning the VIX as opposed to owning VIX futures back out there. They're all playing just-in-time hedging, and they're not going to unwind until after they get what's left of their bonuses or their contracts renewed.
I mean, I don't know what bonuses. I don't see anybody up money. We're looking hedge fund returns. They're not very good. CTA returns, I guess, aren't too good. The large macro funds are, not doing well, and I'm sure. I mean, listen. Goldman is trading at $180 a share. Down 25% on the year. I don't know how they can give massive bonuses.
No, I'm not saying they are. I'm just
I'm saying I think bonuses are going to be contracting. Market is, the market feels like a bear market, even though we haven't even entered a bear market yet. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. It's funny. I was looking at natural gas last night. It was up a bit. Now it reversed and down a bit. I think the weather is warming up where you guys are, right? It's like 42 or something.
32 a couple hours ago, but
warming to 42.
It's a balmy 42 now. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly. Get out there. Get out there. But I guess that's a little bit weather related. Oil is down $1, down 2%. That's an interesting one. That's coming up on levels. It's interesting. I saw Bitcoin was breaking down again over the weekend, and they came in and it hasn't bounced a lot, but it'll be interesting to see how that finishes the year. And I'd like to talk about the guy. I don't know if you know him. He used to be at JP Morgan, but now he's got his own thing, Fundstrat. This guy Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee has a year-end price target of the S&P at 3,000, okay, and he has a year-end price target in Bitcoin of 15,000. Okay.
Weathermen have better.
Right. I mean, what are you going to give? Wait, his Bitcoin target came down 10,000 in like a week. I mean, what is that?
I know.
It's so frustrating.
A weatherman can be 50-50 and keep a job. Like you can't, like in the chat room, Citigroup just cut the Apple target from 200 to 200 from 240. How can you cut your price target by 20%? How could you be off that much?
Wait, you're cutting your price target by 20%, and you're 20% off the market. So
right, really they're dragging it down because they don't want to really admit. Like I've seen this all the time in markets. The analyst lowers the price in gradients, and they start talking about an average price for the year, and then they're looking for a job next year. But they're all broken clocks. Many of them are broken clocks. Not all of them.
Interesting. The puts are bid indexes. which is pretty interesting to look at. They got bids. Yeah, even puts for today are pricing in about $4. That's a pretty good move. That's a cent and a half during the day today. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
I straddle. Let's look at the straddle 35 straddle idea. It's actually pricing in about $28, which is relatively, I guess it's not even high versus a 23 vol. I think that's pretty low, actually. That's pricing in 1%, right? That's not really too much. Not seeing a lot there, but overall, the markets look, they look interesting to say the least. There's a lot of activity, a lot of stuff to do. I'm talking just, broad-based equities and equity indices. There's a lot of trading. There's been a lot of movement and a lot of trading in here. So I think there's opportunity. So when you ask me, about that, it's really, it's hard to determine, the moves of what is going to be here. So right now we're in no man's land. The S&P is actually unchanged on the day. The NASDAQ, which was just up about 35, is up 4. These are premiums, though. So if we open here, market should open 30 to 50 points higher. Just remember, we're about $3 to $4 over. I think the cash went out at, where'd the cash go out on the S&P? 33, maybe 33.07. So we're still pricing in, a $3-4 up opening. I don't see how that's going to happen where these stocks are. Amazon's
33.
down. Yeah, 33. So $3. So $3 over, and almost $4
Hey Vince,
over.
somebody was asking a question. What are your thoughts on gold and dollar into the end of the year, being that they're so tied tightly?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, Larry. We talked about gold this morning, but to Mike, I have a macro position, a macro feeling for gold and dollar going out a year and a half, that I think the dollar is going to have a super spike before people really understand that QT is killing the market, and then you'll have a QE sort of play. So to answer your question directly, I don't see a change in perception of QT as a driver on gold and the dollar. So I don't see the dollar weakening, and I don't see gold rally from a QT perspective. That doesn't mean stocks won't rally, because they're constantly discounting, hopium. The second thing is trade. I do see trade, the trade wars. I do see positive rhetoric, although I don't think anything will actually be resolved going into the end of the year with the hopes of goosing, say, the stock market out of Trump. So you could see the dollar weaken off of that and gold rally. So my feel is that gold is very dependent on the yuan. QT is not going to change, and probably higher going into the end of the year on balance for gold, because there will be allocations for 2019 coming out, and funds will be, insiders and commercials will be accumulating gold in anticipation of selling it to investors in 2019. So that's my bias from a flow perspective. From a technical perspective, I'm not really interested in being long. Long gold from 1189 was the call, and actually the bottom was 1161, as Larry called. But until we get above the 12-month moving average on a settlement basis, which is like 1262, there's nothing to say that this market isn't just in a trading range between 1250 and 1200 for the rest of the year. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us a little perspective, but what would be your setup? Let's say it's year end going into next year. Would you have a position long or a position
well, I mean,
short?
we're long on a weekly breakout last week. That's a little bit in the money, not as in the money as it was, but we should be long from 1189 with a target of like 1260. So right now we're in, as you would say, no man's land. But right now, long gold, as long as it's above 1233. For a day trading perspective, we did say last night that it was due for a retracement, and geez, it retraced a lot further than we thought it would. But today, uh, uh, Feb gold below 1250, between 1250 and 1242. That's the range. So above that, you can buy it if you're momentum oriented, and below that, you can below 1243, you can sell it if you're momentum oriented. Other than that, I don't see the market doing much. I do see it running into a lot of selling between 1250 and 1260. So if you're long, it's time to take profits in that area. And if you want to get short, look there. But there is one outlier. I can't call it a black swan, and this is dollar related and China related. The phone company, everything that's going on. If China just says, screw it, we're going to devalue, that would be horrible for the U.S. stock market for a day. Of course they'd fix it, but it would be horrible for gold for a month. If China debased the yuan in a surprise move, gold would dump. So basically, you would want to be long with a stop at 1233, and then below 1233, I'd be a buyer of puts. But I don't want to make too much of it. It's really not that much to talk about in gold, and I don't want to force the issue, except to say it's in a trading range.
I think year-end S&P can be very, very important. My thought, I keep saying, is that I'm hoping the market ends up, but if it ends down, I'd like to see it get washed out. Levels to look at in the S&P is that low. We made a 20 low in trading last week. We made a lower low last night at 10 and a quarter ish, and we made the low at 03. I think it was 03 or 05, in that area. But the real ultimate low here, in my mind, is the 25-30 level that was made off of that February action when that volatility product blew up. That would be a level, that would be really interesting to see what we do. I don't expect it. I expect it to quiet down in here. The only thing that gets me going is how much do you think the DAX is down on the year?
15-ish%.
Down over 17. I can actually give you an exact on it. I have to look it up, but I'd say 17 change. And China is down even more. So you have the big indices. DAX is down 17. So the DAX is down 17. The Chinese Shanghai is down 20 plus. Hang Seng is down. All the major markets are down massive numbers here. So, we're bucking the trend. We're the best house on a bad block, but overall,
and we have the bullets to lower rates when we have to. Like, we're ahead of everyone.
I think we're so
cycle.
far from. Listen, we haven't corrected in 10 years.
No, I'm not.
I know.
I'm not.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying we have our. I'm just saying our Fed is better at cooking the books than everyone else's Fed.
Right, but it doesn't matter to these other central banks. They could lower. The German 10-year is at like 20 bips. Okay,
Right.
They could lower. They could
no
go
more
negative.
room.
We've seen them much more negative than this. What I'm saying is, yeah, they can lower them. They're screwed because they never raised rates when they had the opportunity, and now, that opportunity is gone because we're in a flat. We're done raising rates, I guess, because everybody's panicking. So
The quantitative tightening definitely has drained dollars out of the world, and that's made it a lot harder.
Right, but think about it. The Fed has raised what? This will be fourth time this year, and the market's flat on the year. I mean, they take that trade every day of the week. Four raises,
right?
And the market's flat. So I don't know what the panic is as far as rates being so high, but overall, the market's it's an interesting screen. I'm looking at my main screen here, and my entire screen, other than bonds being up one tick, is red. S&P is red. NASDAQ is red. Bond 10 years are red. Oil is red. Gold is red. The euro is red. Yen is red. And I could go across the board. It's interesting. It's all red. So RBOB is up. Look out, RBOB.
What are your thoughts for the week here, Larry? I know that you're more on the pessimistic side, but we have a few different things on the radar. What are your sort of thoughts for? Is it going to be a wide-ranging week? Is it going to be a volatile week, or do you think we start to slow down with year-end approaching?
Well, I think that those lows will come into play. If we don't get those lows, I think it'll quiet down. I do not think it's quiet here. I think the blow-ups are big. I think hedge funds are down a lot. There are funds that we personally know that have never really lost money that are down double digits on the year, on billions and billions of dollars. So I think there's a lot of pain. I think there's a lot of long apples. I think everybody is long Apple. Actually, Apple just dropped another $1.50 while we were speaking. So I don't know if there must be.
Larry, a point that you haven't made, but I know you.
Wow, it's down. It's dropping more. It just dropped another. It dropped $2. It's down. It's ticking in like half-point range. It's down to $3 right now. But what I'm saying is, I spoke to someone at a very large firm that has big allocations to these names, and they're all taking them down. It's funny. Apple is just down 3. It's down 2, moving $1 at a crack. So, there's a lot of panic in that name. I actually want to look to buy that at some point today. Should probably hold in here for trade, but it's interesting. It was just down 3. Now it's down $1.90, $1.80. I don't know what's going on. It's swinging like a pendulum. Now it's down $1.80. It was down $3.30 a minute ago. So it's moving. That stock is a great day trading stock. So as far as what I think on the year, it should quiet down, but there's a lot of pain out there and a lot of position maneuvering. So I think it has to do with that and a lot of illiquidity. So we'll keep an eye on that. But overall, markets, what's the market down on the year? 1.5%. So that's a crash in our world.
And we can't, it's a crash by our standards. To Mike's question, it hasn't really been thrown around a lot yet, but I suspect you'll start hearing the redemption selling because people are going to be redeeming money out of funds going with more passive funds after this. Maybe if they can't get a positive this year at the end of the year, I would expect a lot of the selling is because they're anticipating redemptions.
Well, I think that's a great point. I also think that people didn't sell last year because they knew that the tax cut was coming. So now the tax cut is here and it's gone. And now you're going to see massive tax selling because people have a lower rate. They waited a year to get this. And I think you're going to see some good tax selling coming in here. But again, the markets are, in no man's land. They're, who's down $1. They saved it. If we came in and we were 25 lower than this, where we were last night, it would be a very interesting opening. But again, you got a lot of seasonality coming in. You got Christmas time. I would love to count out the days to the end of the year, but I would say we're talking under 20 days. There's probably 15 trading days left that aren't even real, So that's that's my take. Apple's an interesting one. Facebook, it looks like Facebook's about 10 off the low. Actually 13 off the low, which is pretty good. I guess that was all panic selling, but overall market looks interesting this morning, but I don't really have I don't have a trade at this level. Just gonna wait it out.
You should probably keep an eye on Google. I think they're getting the whole Congress treatment this week, if not today, like Facebook had last week or last month, which was a big driver of their sell-off. The whole evasion of questions. I wonder how that's going to go for Google. So it might be something to watch today. We'll talk to Tom about that maybe.
It's interesting. Apple. I mean, I'm just looking at the price. It's I'm obsessed with it today. It's just a great day trading stock. It's trading at 165.99. That's 75 points or more off the high. I mean, the high is we're literally mid-range from the low when Buffett bought it at 90 whatever to here. So we're mid-range. It's going to be interesting to see. I think there's a lot of bad longs in that stock, and I'd like to see a whoosh today.
Well, there's some news here on Qualcomm regarding Apple. It's Qualcomm says the court orders immediate ban on import sales offers for the sale of the iPhone 7. The Qualcomm is actually trading up 3%. Apple's trading down 2%. So there's just another
iPhone 7.
Yeah, and
right.
It says Qualcomm says court orders immediate ban on import sales offers for sales of the iPhone 6s as well, and this.
I don't know who's buying those.
No, but that's the.
I'm on a 10, baby. Check it out.
But that's the refurbished secondhand market. I mean, to Mike's point earlier, maybe Apple didn't know what they were doing when they started this whole lack of transparency thing, but they did not foresee what would come next, and it's butting them in the butt, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they have major issues here.
So just on today's schedule, we're going to be speaking with Phil Flynn at 10 o'clock on energy and macro. At 10:30, we're going to be speaking with Tracy Schuchart, and at 1:30, we're going to be speaking with Joe Vaclavec. I think that there is a big ag release on Wednesday, so he'll be talking to us about ags and implications of China. So Tracy will be taking us through some technical analysis. Phil will be taking us through what other traders are talking about. And we'll have a lot of other updates.
Awesome. Sounds like a awesome day. It's
I think just to really put a fine point on the Qualcomm thing, there's a big market for used iPhones that are refurbished, and Qualcomm's involved in that. So the iPhone 6s and 7s get bought by companies and then sold to Chinese people in China. There's a big market for secondhand iPhone sales. So that would be the beginning of the ban of an iPhone in China. So once the demand for secondhand iPhones goes down in China, that means prices in general go down. The point is that this is kind of retribution. Qualcomm is forbidden to sell iPhone products in China. That's it. iPhone used products, refurbished. So there's the beginning of escalation. That can't be bullish for anything.
Okay, I don't really know what the ruling is, or if it has to do with them selling. I thought it's Qualcomm, some kind of technology invasion of what is the ruling here? That they can't what?
Qualcomm says that China's court creates an injunction banning the most recent iPhone sales or some iPhone sales in China. So there is a market for.
That's pretty big news, and now the stock's down almost 4. So I don't know how the S&P is holding up here.
And not only that, on a technical basis, Apple's just broken through everything.
Yeah.
And, it's been a bellwether. So as of right now, like you said, last night we opened up in the S&P. We were trading down, I think, 25 on the low. And so to be flat or down 2 and Apple being down 2% is a big win for the markets, considering where we were. If we were down 25 and then this Apple news came out, it probably would have.
Yeah, I don't know how big the Apple news is, in general. I mean,
it's definitely relief for Qualcomm. I mean, that's how the market's looking at it. They don't have to hold inventory they can't move, I guess. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there, but that's what that's related to.
Yeah, I don't think.
What's up the most on the year, stock-wise? I'm going to say it's Tootsie Roll.
What is? I mean, Amazon's up 35. Netflix is up 35.
Netflix up 37. Amazon's up 38. Microsoft's up 25. Tesla up 15. AMD up 88%, and then Twilio, which is a company we use with the Opportunistic Trader, is up 278%.
Awesome.
Well, they're certainly getting rich off of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Every time we send out one of Larry's trade alerts, it's going through Twilio.
Awesome.
There you go.
Anyway, so it's getting close to the opening, so we're gonna wrap. Volatility just turned positive again. It's 23.5. Market is actually holding much better than I would have thought, with Apple being down $4. I just can't imagine the pain of being long Apple here. It's just got to be awesome. I mean, it's an awesome, number. I think Apple's probably a trading buy if they smoke it on the opening here. Look to buy it down like 4.5, 5, but I just can't. I mean, the pain is unbearable in there. It's pretty awesome. So the Nasdaq is holding up phenomenally well relative. I don't see how the Nasdaq is only down 16 and only down at $8 discount. So I guess they want to buy the opening here. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll be
before
back
we
to
go
you.
out. If you
Yeah.
want, here's the facts, no conjecture on the Qualcomm Apple thing. It matters because the injunction blocks the sale and import of iPhones into China, but not the manufacture or export of the devices, to your point. So the direct impact is limited to the Chinese domestic market of buyers, but it represents a significant disruption to Apple's business and could bring the two parties to the negotiating table in their long litigation war, apparently between Qualcomm and Apple. So basically, the injunction prevents the sale and import of iPhone 6, 6 Plus, 7, 7 Plus, 8, 8 Plus, and iPhone 10. And you have to understand, Qualcomm has patents that it claims iPhone had been infringing on. So Qualcomm is happy that China is not buying these phones because China is kind of holding up Qualcomm's patent validity. So China has an excuse to ban iPhones based on a Qualcomm patent that really is a jab or a blowback in the trade war to us. So that's why Qualcomm is higher, because somebody internationally is holding up their patent on a chip maker, on a chip that they say is being infringed on. So, but this is just another blow to the trade war thing.
Okay, I agree. We'll see how the stock acts. It's interesting. So the ruling came out of a Chinese court?
Yeah. So basically, it's like Qualcomm and Apple have been fighting for years. Qualcomm says we have a chip and Apple's been using it. They've been infringing on our patent. Okay, and that's been in court for years. But in China, they said we think Qualcomm's right. Boom, out of nowhere. So we're no longer going to accept iPhone sales into. I was wrong before. Into China. But we're still going to make parts for the phone. So Qualcomm goes up, Apple sales to China go down, and you effectively have, at least for the short term, it's an injunction. So it's a temporary banning of some, if not most, Apple products in China due to this injunction upholding Qualcomm's claim. So legally, it makes Qualcomm's patent look good in China, but obviously it's a pawn play, and we'll see how stocks act in general. Because, like you said, this is basically what you said. China. It would be funny, it would be ironic, paraphrasing you, if China just stopped permitting iPhones to be sold. Well, guess what? They're doing that now, and they're doing it taking cover behind Qualcomm's patent. So this is very big news, because it could trend. It could be, the injunction could be appealed and lifted, but the fact is China's looking for ways to hurt people back, I think. And they don't love Qualcomm. They just hate Trump.
All right. Well, we'll see the action there for sure, and hopefully, we get some good trade off it. It looks like it's stabilized in here. I think 165 is a good area to try the long side. We haven't done anything yet, but we'll wait till after the opening on that. And we have only about 15 minutes to the opening, so I want to get ready. S&P down 4, which is really fair value, because we discussed before 32 on cash. That's fair value. NASDAQ is a little below fair value, but overall, even though it looks down a little bit, it's flat to a little bit higher on the Dow. And it's pretty much all Apple. I would keep an eye on Apple heavily today. See if it bounces out of here. If it doesn't, next stop is 155, which would be the lows of the year. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's $10 away. But the way this stock is moving, $3, $4 a day, that's a couple of days. So let's keep an eye. We think it's going to hold in here. But overall, it could take the low if it doesn't. Many stocks are on the lows. I mean, Micron's back to the lows of this move. Goldman's on the lows of this move. Citibank, low of the move. All these stocks are low of the move. So we, other than the S&P holding firmly here, everything looks low. So anyway, I want to get ready for the opening, and I wish everybody good luck, and we'll be in the chat, and we'll be back on the air after the opening.